Today's topic is an introductory webinar actually regarding recognizing academic and related difficulties in the classroom. So because it's an introductory webinar, it gives you an overall picture about what are some of the academic difficulties and what are the skills related to it that can occur in the classroom and that which we have to recognize. The key takeaways or the contents of this seminar would be, we would discuss what is learning, what are the key academic areas we are looking at, the difficulties thereof, related skills and behaviors, difficulties in skills and behaviors that occur in children, consequences of these difficulties, and what is the way forward. To look at learning, learning can be defined as a process of acquiring new knowledge, understanding different concepts, behaviors, skills, values, developing attitudes and preferences. And some learning can be very immediate, can be induced by a single event. And some learning is a result of skill accumulation or skill acquisition or knowledge accumulated from repeated experience over a longer duration of time. And most of our academic achievements or academic skill acquisitions are a result of this repeated learning experiences over time. Key academic areas in learning are literacy and or language skills, numeracy or math skills, and subject content matters such as science, social sciences, etc. And in each of these academic areas, you have a wide variety of concepts that are imparted in the regular classroom. Difficulties commonly seen with regard to academic learning. If you look at most of the language related areas, reading and comprehension is a key area. Written expression. Along with reading and comprehension comes spelling skills as well, which also has this impact on written expression. And then you have mathematical concepts and calculations, so difficulties in those areas, and subject content mastery, which is all the skills and behaviors and concepts and content matter related to science, social sciences, and similar other subjects taught in the schools. Related skills and behavior. Related skills and behaviors are those that are actually very important for academic acquisition. And some of these key skills are listening and speaking, attention and memory, logical thinking and reasoning, motor coordination. Listening and speaking, attention and memory, logical thinking and reasoning, all these are quite familiar to most of the professionals working in the field. I'll just dwell a little bit about motor coordination. This is with regard to some of the children may have huge motor issues, but many of the children who we find in the regular classroom may not actually have functional motor difficulties, in the sense that they may not have difficulties in walking, running, etc. But they may have very minor motor coordination issues such as fine motor skill issues, inability to hold a pencil or manipulate the pencil and write with speed and accuracy. Some children may also have motor coordination difficulties in such as catching a ball or being able to lift something and put it gently. So they may be clumsy. Motor movements may not be very coordinated and neat and precise. So some of the children do exhibit difficulties in this area. So some of the things, what it manifests as in the classroom is skills and behaviors, is difficulty processing information communicated through lectures or class discussions, difficulty in discriminating very fine differences in sounds, especially when it comes to certain letters. When there are two letters with very minor differentiation in sounds, they may have difficulty perceiving that. Inability to distinguish between sounds also may result in pronunciation errors. If there is background noise, like in a school environment, to filter out those background noises and then be able to focus on what the teacher is saying. deciding what images to focus on when multiple images are present in the textbook, or multiple words are present as in a paragraph, and they have to identify certain words which the teacher is pointing to. Difficulty understanding relationships between different concepts, objects, etc. That is, understanding sameness or similarities and differences between concepts. Difficulty understanding patterns or anything which is of a cyclic nature or a repetitive nature. Difficulties with time management, being able to complete things on time, or understanding the concept of when to complete or when to present an assignment, etc. Difficulties with planning and organization, that is prioritizing what needs to be done first and then what needs to be done, and so on. Getting things, the workspace or the books, etc., organized. Directionality difficulties, being able to, not able to, or finding it difficult to discriminate right from left. Position difficulties, such as when things like in, out, beside, etc., these kind of position words are mentioned. Understand, being able to follow through that. Being able to follow directions, especially when there are multi-step directions given in the classroom, and being able to follow those directions and carry out tasks as per the directions. Sensory issues. Some children may also actually exhibit an overreaction to certain sensory stimuli, such as loud noises, or bright light or glare from the board, etc. Some of them may have very diminished reactions as well. They may not respond at all to these kind of stimuli. So some children do exhibit sensory issues such as these within the classroom. The consequences of these kind of difficulties. I mean, when we have these skills and behaviors, or difficulties in skills and behaviors, it does manifest as difficulties in reading, writing, comprehension, and maths. And the continued or persistent academic skill related difficulties usually results has a long lasting impact, and it has definitive consequences. So I'm just dividing this into two major areas, which is behavioral consequence and functional consequence. Most of the behavioral consequences are very related to the difficulties the child is facing. For example, not wanting to go to school, complaining about things happening in school, trying to skip classes, refusing or avoiding delaying tactics while engaging in academic tasks. May have anxiety, stress, or anger, frustration when they're unable to do academic tasks or related skills. Excessive attention or over dependence on support from the teacher, parent, etc. Needing constant reassurance that if they have to go along. Inability to cope with teasing, bullying from others, so even an emotional insecurity. A low risk taking behavior. So unless they're totally sure of themselves, they wouldn't even attempt doing something for fear of getting it wrong or failing. Low motivation to learn from repeated negative learning experiences. They may develop a low motivation to learn, especially learning academic tasks. Acting out in class so that they can be punished or put out so as to avoid academic sessions. Withdrawing or being very quiet and unnoticeable almost in the classroom, so that their presence is not at all felt, or the inabilities are not seen or perceived by the teacher. So these are some of the behavioral consequences that occur. Functional consequences. If these kind of difficulties, both in the academic areas and in the skill relating to academic areas, persist, and if they persist over, say, the child is struggling, you have noticed and identified these issues, and you, as an educator, you've tried giving some kind of help or trying using different types of teaching learning strategies or materials to help the child. But despite that, if the child is still continuing to struggle, and if appropriate intervention is not provided, then there are certain long-term functional consequences. And this is, one is lower academic attainment. So because of all these, if it continues unaddressed, what happens is, even though the potential may be there, in regard to, with regard to the potential, their academic achievement may be much lesser. Higher rates of high school dropout may be seen, lower rates of higher education or post-secondary education, and all this may result in higher levels of psychological stress, causing a lot of anxiety, frustration, etc. So therefore, many of these children at a later stage, if these problems are left unaddressed, may develop a poor overall mental health. So they're more susceptible to mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and so on. And because of lower academic achievement and attainment, it may result in higher rates of unemployment, or being employed in jobs with lower incomes, or jobs which do not are not in the higher education category. So, they may end up with lower education and therefore lower level jobs and lower incomes, despite having potential to have risen above those. And in some extreme cases, we also find suicidal tendencies or development of delinquent behaviors in these children. So this is like a good overview of what really happens in the regular classroom. If academic skills are left unaddressed, if the children struggle for a long time and they go on to, they continue through school without getting the required kind of help and support. So what is the way forward? The way forward is identify early and as early as possible. Early identification, and a lot of parents, a lot of teachers actually ask, what is early identification? Early identification is when you find the child is actually struggling. That's the first point. But then at that point, you don't need to immediately refer the child anywhere. What can be done is try out different strategies. See if the child is having difficulty following auditory learning, then try with a lot of visual input, with pictures, models, etc. If that is also being difficult, try with movement-oriented learning. Many of these children may have attention issues as well. They may have attention deficits, be unable to sit still, etc. So some of those kind of children learn better through movement, through activity, etc. So try these different kinds of learning strategies, use different kinds of multisensory learning activities, use different kinds of multisensory materials. And even then, you can try these for at least 3 to 6 months. And if the problem still persists and the child continues to struggle, maybe showing some progress with your strategies, etc., but still continues to struggle. And you see that there is a lot of effort being put on the child, but it is not translating into required or expected performance. And then definitely refer the child to a certified special educator, psychologist, preferably a multidisciplinary team, so that a psychoeducational assessment can be done, and the strengths of the child, the needs of the child can be identified, and further intervention and support systems can be planned. And when you identify early, what it results in is to provide an effective holistic management, which should include proper placement in the right kind of schooling, and not only include appropriate placement, but also provide supportive or remedial education depending on the child's strengths and needs. Personal counseling to the child, as well as family counseling, for them to understand what the child is going through, what the problems are, what the needs are, how long the support systems need to be provided, etc. Social skills and life skills training for the children, because despite because of these academic and related issues, they may also have some minor social skills issues or life skill issues, so those have to be taken care of. Sensory integration training, if there are serious sensory issues with the children, Then there are therapeutic programs known as sensory integration training, so exercises, activities which promote better sensory equilibrium, which ultimately results in a better enhancement of better learning process and better achievement in the classroom. Provision of therapies such as speech therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, etc., if needed. Medical intervention if needed. Some of the children may need medical intervention, such as, in extreme cases of attention deficits, they may need medication to help them cope with it. So it depends on child to child. So it is very child specific, the kind of interventions they need. And last but not the least, accommodations and modifications. Accommodations and modifications would include the content, curriculum adaptations, the differences in teaching methodologies and strategies that need to be introduced, accommodations when it comes to taking exams, classroom management has to be modified to include the child's needs and strengths, etc. So these are broad areas of holistic management that will ultimately address the needs of the child and help bring out the better potential of the child and help the child to actually overcome these issues to the maximum extent possible and learn coping strategies, because some of the conditions may not be something that the child can circumvent throughout life. So some of them may be neurodevelopmental issues which may remain with the child throughout life. So they need to be taught coping strategies as well, because it has lifelong implications. With this, I think I come to